Ah, the school computer lab. We've all been there. Well, I mean, maybe you 0.4% 65 plus viewers haven't, but the vast majority of my audience has. The school computer lab was a magical place for me growing up. It was a bastion of unproductivity unrivaled by any other place in the world. I probably got more done just sitting at home playing my GameCube and eating fruit by the foot than I ever did in the computer lab. The moment the teacher wasn't looking, the moment I was done phoning in my assignment, it was always straight to Bloons Tower Defense 3, Run 2, Papa's Pizzeria, only the classics. But as time went on, I went from that wide-eyed child playing GameCube and eating fruit by the foot to a sweaty, awkward teenager that, unfortunately, brought his 3DS to school every day. And I wasn't the only one evolving during that time. The school system was adapting as well, and they were getting wise to our computer lab antics. Site after site after site started getting blocked on school Wi-Fi, including even the legendary Cool Math Games. As quickly as sketchy new unblocked game sites would appear out of the ether, they would be cast into the abyss by the school administrators, never to be seen again. But as the world crashed down around us, as our beloved Bloons Tower Defense was forever put out of reach between the hours of 8 AM to 3 PM, we would not be deterred. For even with all of their power, there was one thing the administrators could never have accounted for. They could block every game on the internet, but they couldn't change the very DNA of the tools we used to access them. And within that DNA, within Google Chrome itself, we found our savior. Chrome Dinosaur Game, baby! Now a lot of you probably know this game as the no internet game, because that's how most of us found it. If you had no internet connection and pressed space on the Chrome window telling you so, the dinosaur game would launch. At least that's how I remember it. I actually don't think this is a thing anymore, unless I was doing something wrong. This uninteractive screen is all I got when I tried to access it the old way. Thankfully for us today, as well as my days back in the computer lab where we always had internet, there is another way to access this game. Simply type chrome://dino into your search bar and voila! Chrome Dinosaur Game in all of its glory. As I previously mentioned, this game is built into Google Chrome itself. There's no download or anything required. It's just part of the software you use to browse the web. It is an incredibly simple game. Your little T-Rex guy runs through the desert, and your job is to jump and crouch to avoid cacti and pterodactyls. Not much changes as you play. Honestly, I can't even tell if the game eventually speeds up or if I'm just gaslighting myself. The only obvious thing I've noticed is that the game will occasionally flashbang you by changing to light mode for a few seconds out of nowhere. But you all already knew about that. This isn't just a video about the Chrome Dinosaur Game. What you might be more surprised to learn is that the Chrome Dinosaur Game isn't an outlier. Just about every mainstream browser has its own built-in game. So let's dive into a few of these games, and you know what? Let's throw them all into a tier list at the end too, since tier lists are good for the algorithm. Okay, so we talked about Chrome first because it's the most popular browser. But what if you don't have time to download Chrome? What if you're trapped on a desert island with nothing but a new Windows 11 laptop? Oh, the horror. Well, I have good news for you. All 12 active users of Microsoft Edge rise up. That's right, we're talking about Let's Surf, commonly known as Edge Surf. By typing edge://surf in your search bar in Microsoft Edge, you'll be greeted with a character select screen. That's right, checkmate dinosaur game, we have features now. That being said, while this game is comparatively more complex than Dinosaur Game, it's still extremely simple. Like Chrome Dino, Surf is an endless survival game, but rather than running through the desert, you're doing just about the opposite, surfing through the ocean. Instead of scrolling left to right, you're making your way downwards, avoiding surfers, jet skiers, structures, the unspeakable horrors of the depths, and rocks. Basically, what it boils down to is steering around obstacles to avoid damage and outrunning the Kraken, which can instantly end your run. You can avoid him by maneuvering through tight spaces he can't get through, collecting boosts to outrun him, or taking a jump to make some more distance. If you get tired of running from the Kraken though, there's actually even more to do in Surf. It features 2 additional modes, Time Trial and Zigzag. Time Trial is, well, exactly what it sounds like. You trade in infinite survival for a mad dash down a short track. It's simplistic, but there's some fun to be had here optimizing your route and trying to get the best time possible. The same, unfortunately, can't be said for Zigzag. This mode is terrible. It's like Endless mode, but instead of running from the Kraken and managing your resources, you're just doing the same zigzag pattern over and over and over again to go through these gates. I'd recommend just sticking to good old Endless mode. For a dumb little built-in game in a browser that I don't even use, Surf is actually something I hold near and dear to my heart. A few years back, I was working in an office that was absolutely miserable. Seriously, if depression could generate electricity, you could have just stuck me and my coworkers to some power lines and provided free energy to the entire tri-state area. We had almost no work to do, but also couldn't be anywhere else or do anything else. It was just sitting at our computers all day until lunch, then getting right back to it. In fact, our computers weren't even connected to the internet. There was really, truly no escape. That is, except for Microsoft Edge Surf, our salvation and deliverance. Someone discovered Surf, and word quickly spread. Within hours, we were all locked in intense competition to push our scores higher and higher, and it never really stopped. As the weeks and months went on, runs went from multiple minutes to multiple hours, and eventually even multiple days as we stopped logging out of our workstations to keep the game paused overnight. Some of my proudest moments in my life include me strutting up to the whiteboard in the break room to triumphantly erase the previous number 1 on the leaderboard and replace it with myself and my new score. So thanks for the memories, Surf. You aren't so bad. Still not going to use Microsoft Edge though. No, rather, I will continue to use FireFox. I know most people use Chrome, and some people who don't know you can download other browsers might stick to Edge, but I've been using FireFox since I was a wee little crustacean. And what do I have to show for it? Well, for this video, not much. While Chrome and Edge have games accessible through a simple command in your search bar, FireFox has you solve a whole-ass Black Ops Zombies Easter egg to get to its secret game. First, you have to open the menu up in the top right corner. Close to the bottom, you'll find a More Tools submenu. At the very top of that submenu, you'll find the Customize Toolbar button. The next step is the fun one. You have to drag every single item except for Flexible Space, one by one, from the left to the Overflow menu on the right. When you finally finish this, you might notice a tiny unicorn icon pop up right here on the bottom left corner of your screen. Clicking this button will finally bring you to FireFox's secret game. So what is your reward for this absolutely Herculean task? Surely such a well-kept secret must be something incredible. Is what I would say if it wasn't just shitty Pong. That's right, for traversing the 9 circles of hell, you're rewarded with Unicorn Pong. It's exactly what it sounds like, and it's exactly what it looks like. I'd love to give you a breakdown of what this game is, but I think what you're seeing on screen says just about everything you need to know. They say a picture is worth 1,000 words, after all. If video footage is worth even more words, then this might be the most that anyone has ever said about FireFox Unicorn Pong. Okay, since we might have some listeners that aren't watching the video, here's a quick rundown. You use the Flexible Space icon as a paddle to play Pong against an AI opponent with a unicorn as the ball. You have 5 lives and a point counter. I'd really love to tell you more, but there is truly nothing else to tell. Thank you, FireFox. Very cool. While that covers the 3 mainstream browsers on Windows, they're far from the only ones. In fact, during research for this video, I found that a few alternative browsers have their own built-in games as well. One of these alternative browsers is Vivaldi, a browser that I had actually never heard of until just now. Now, I'm not here to comment on its functionality because I only downloaded it to get footage for this video, but what I will comment on is its sheer fucking hubris. Who do you think you are, Vivaldi? Huh? What is it you think you're doing here? Looking at the legendary Chrome Dino game and thinking, yeah, I'm gonna do that, but better. Well, you're not doing it better. This is an Icarus moment if I've ever seen one. Vivaldi flew too close to the Dino sun, and its wings melted into the pile of slop that is Vivaldia. Okay, maybe I'm being a little harsh. This game really isn't all that bad, but it's not all that good either, or good at all, really. Like Chrome Dino, this game is an endless runner, but there's a lot more going on here, and not to the game's benefit. You have a lot more power over your character than in Dino, with the ability to control your left and right position and shoot down enemies. The problem is that controlling all of this feels incredibly awkward. The controls are stiff and very, very stinky. The shooting feels terrible, and it always feels like there's way too much going on for what should be a very simple browser game. Some things are just elegant in their simplicity, and Chrome Dino is one of those things. Vivaldia is neither simple nor elegant. It is only Vivaldia, and Vivaldia sucks ass. Complex doesn't have to mean terrible though. Vivaldia is just an example of when it is. The last game we'll be looking at has a lot more moving parts than Dino, Surf, and Unicorn Pong put together, but it still comes out to be an enjoyable experience. Our last game is playable on OperaGX, the sponsor of today's video. No, I'm just kidding. We're poor over here on the Soda Crab channel, but the game really is on OperaGX. Located at opera://Aparius, Aparius is a 3D space shooter game with a lot of features and a decent amount of content. Basically, you just fly through these geometric tubes, shooting down spaceships and aliens to build up points while avoiding obstacles. Flying through these rings increases your level, which improves your rate of fire and the amount of projectiles your ship shoots out. You complete each stage by flying through enough rings to bring yourself up to level 5. Aparius is by no means an in-depth or overly thought-provoking experience, but there's a really decent chunk of game here, and it's all pretty quality for a free game included in a free software. It even has a co-op mode and an unlockable endless mode, which is absolutely crazy considering the precedent set by the other games we've talked about. The graphics can sometimes be a little headache-inducing or difficult to see thanks to the simple color palette and geometric designs, but they're still overall pretty charming. And the soundtrack isn't half bad either. Honestly, I could see myself paying 99 cents for this on my phone and playing it in a waiting room or something. Aparius really impressed me for what it is. But let's swing back to the games I really wasn't impressed with, because we're starting our tier list in D tier. Down here at the very bottom of the barrel, we have FireFox's Unicorn Pong. I wanted to be more charitable to it because it's clearly a simple Easter egg, but if we're stacking it up against the others on this list, it's clearly the loser. It's almost unfair to make it compete, but unfortunately for Unicorn Pong, sometimes life is unfair. Next up in C tier, we have the game that I felt the most strongly averse to, Vivaldia. I may like this game less than Unicorn Pong, but given that you don't need to commune with dark spirits to access it, it gets the bump up. Plus, there's at least a tiny bit more going on here than in Unicorn Pong, even if I think most of what's going on is boring and bad. You might be surprised to see what we have over in B tier, Aparius. This is probably a hot take, but let me explain. If this tier list was ranking these games in a vacuum, purely as video games, Aparius would be number 1, no contest. But the thing is, this list is ranking these games in the context of their status as browser games, and in that context, I just can't place Aparius any higher. These browser games are great for their simplicity and your ability to just pick them up and put them down at a moment's notice. Aparius just has such a big scope for what it is, and has so much going on at any given moment of gameplay, that I wouldn't be able to comfortably play it in an environment like the office or the classroom. Plus, the games above it on the list have another distinct advantage. They're included in commonly used browsers. What, you thought the Fire Emblem guy wouldn't account for availability in his tier list? Come on guys, that would be a pitfall. OperaGX, by design, is a gaming browser. If you have this browser, you use your computer for gaming, and if you have games on your computer, Aparius suddenly looks way less attractive. Would I rather sit down and play Aparius than surf or Chrome Dino? Probably. But none of these are sit down and play games. They're I'm bored on the computer lab games. And in that regard, Aparius falls shorter than our two final games. Speaking of our two final games, our runner-up in the A tier is the all-time classic, Chrome Dino. What is there to say that hasn't already been said? It's simple, it's elegant, it's everything you need when you need it. It's just enough to be engaging while still being mindless enough to pay attention to other things if you need to. The only reason it's not on top is probably because I'm biased. It's with that bias that I bestow upon Microsoft Edge Surf the honorable title of S-tier browser game. It has the simplicity of Chrome Dino. Maneuvering through the water can be mindless, but it's made more engaging than Dino because you need to be paying just enough attention to your surroundings to keep you on your toes. On top of that, the minor resource management and more freedom of movement give you interesting minute-to-minute decisions to make while you're playing. Surf strikes such beautiful balance with its simplicity, and it's that, along with my fond memories of it, that solidifies its spot in S tier. There might be other browser games out there that I'm unaware of, so let me know if I missed any in the comments below. And of course, if you enjoyed the video, be sure to like and subscribe. But not just for my sake. For the sake of our country. As returning viewers know, the Crustacean Party has endorsed Jet the Hawk of Sonic Riders fame as our candidate for the office of President of the United States. Jet recently announced an update to his policy, proudly proclaiming his intention to use his presidential powers to create the brand new Babylon browser. With Babylon Browser, by typing Sonic://Riders into the search bar, you'll be able to play the full Sonic Riders game right there in your browser. He still hasn't asked Sega about this, but he's sure they'll be cool with it if he's president. Subscribe today, join the channel, or support me on Patreon like these proud Jet supporters you see on screen, to ensure that this incredible undertaking is seen to fruition.
I'm Jet the Hawk, and I approve this message.